Hey, great day. So, if you are a therapist and you want to diversify your next stream of income and you want to shift from one to one to many, and you want something that feels familiar, you want something that feels safe and smooth, and of course, it is ethical, then I think that your next stream of income is actually staring at you right in the face. And so, let's talk about therapy groups. Hey, grateful day. My name is Dr. TK. Welcome back to today's podcast episode. And so, I am a clinical psychologist and therapist business mentor. And I really pride myself on being the scale coach for mental health therapists, which means that we are going to shift only doing one-to-one, and we are going to add some streams of income that are still utilizing your current level of expertise, but we are also moving into one-to-many offers. So before we jump into therapy groups, I first want to do a little bit of business therapy, and let's reframe the way that you may think about therapy groups. And so remember, therapy groups are still a form of therapy, which means that it still requires you to have the same license, still the same clinical framework, which means that you've identified a problem on the onset of treatment, you've collaboratively developed a treatment plan, and then you walk that person through treatment in order to solve their problem, right? And then you also have the same ethical responsibility as a provider. So it's not really about learning a lot of new things. It's really about understanding what you already have been using in place to serve one-on-one clients, especially if you have a private practice. And then, of course, building out the vehicle and the systems to onboard a client for therapy groups, select the right client for therapy groups, and then, of course, to run the therapy groups. So in our community full of therapists, I serve therapists who are building profitable solo practices, group practice, and additional streams of income like therapy groups. And sometimes resistance comes up. And so let's talk about it. You don't need a new tax ID if you already have an existing business. You don't even need to go out and get credentialed through specialty insurance panels because you may already be on some in which the clients can just go to therapy and use a different CPT code. You don't even need a flood of new clients, I will say, in the beginning, because you may want to start off with looking at the clientele that you already have that may benefit from an additional support service like therapy groups. And some clients may be more than willing to be able to be in a support system in which they do not feel alone. But of course, we know we have to choose the right people that are appropriate for therapy groups. So now I want to build up your confidence just in case your wheels are spinning, okay? So you already know how to conduct an intake. You've did probably thousands of hours conducting intakes across your practicum, internship hours, and then of course, post-licensure. You already know how to assess readiness for someone who reaches out to you and says, I want to start therapy. You already know how to create a treatment plan once you've identified the presenting problems, diagnoses, and then, of course, you do a collaborative effort with the client to design a plan of implementation. You already know how to document services. You know how to document and write up the intake, the treatment plan, progress notes, and then once somebody is done with treatment, you offboard them, you give them referrals, etc. So you already know how to close a case. And so really what I'm saying is give yourself some credit. So let's talk about what real questions matter, especially if you've been thinking about running a therapy group or this is something that is new to you, but it is piquing your interest. And so the real question is not, can you run a therapy group? The real questions are as follows. Have you selected appropriate group members? When people come into a container, you want to make sure that you are working on the same problem together and you've chosen individuals that will be a good match with other group members. You also want to screen out ethically without overcomplicating the process who would be good for the therapy group because let's be honest, some people are not ready to do a shared space experience. Another question that you may want to ask is how do you move someone from the consultation process to see if they're a great fit for therapy into the enrollment of the group therapy process? Something else to consider is how do you set up your back office so that your client's experience can be seamless once you onboard them and of course, ongoing care. And then lastly is how do you close a group intentionally, meaning it's wrapped up and clinically sound? That could be the session, that could be the entire process. So if you're listening to this right now and you are thinking, okay, this actually sounds and feels very doable. I really want to try to do a therapy group, then I actually created a therapy group starter kit bundle. It will walk you through the screening process. I'm talking about additional questions beyond your regular intake, plus back office processes that a lot of therapists overlook because they treat group therapy like individual therapy, and there are some things that are different. And so I don't want to make this complicated. I've created the kit where it's very simple and easy to follow. And so for access, all you have to do is go down to the description box, click the link, and grab the kit. So now let's talk about why adding groups to your clinical business is actually a smooth and safe process for you to shift from one-to-one to one-to-many. So therapy groups actually will allow you to stay within your scope of your existing clinical practice. So for example, if you work with EMDR clients and they are focused on trauma, then you can do a coping skills group for those who have experienced trauma. You can also serve clients who benefit from a shared space. And so anytime that you think about a group, you want to think about that people have been curated to be in one room together and they're going to benefit and grow from one another, because sometimes people feel like they are going through certain experiences alone until they hear that someone else, maybe with a different background, maybe with different context to why they're in therapy, but they have overlapping presenting problems or what they're facing moving forward. And so it gives them really a sense of peace to know that they're not by themselves. You also can increase the impact without the hours added to your calendar. And so we're not saying replace all individual therapy client slots, because if you're anything like me, I thrive off of individual sessions, but I don't want that many, and they have to be a particular type of client. However, I do love offering additional services that are in the format of group, because outside of the building phases of anything that is new, of course, once you build out a system, it becomes rinse and repeatable. Therefore, you can do it over and over again, which means that the process is faster, it's seamless, and you are also cutting off hours out of your schedule. So remember, when you do a therapy group, it's not about hustling. It's not about all of these hours being added to your schedule. It's really about sustainability. So that's another way to think about, okay, what are ways that I can diversify my income in my private practice so that I'm not burning myself out? I'm still serving the clients that I really want to serve, but I'm not adding 10 additional hours, 10 additional clients to be able to meet my goal. So as we bring all of this together, therapy groups are not a leap. They are not a lateral move, just, okay, I'm going to move over here and do nothing else. It is a simple way to diversify your income while staying true to who you are, who you love to serve, and what you like to help people solve in terms of their problems. It really keeps you grounded in the clinical work that you were meant and aligned to do with the public, okay? And so it also is, may I say, a safe way to diversify your stream of income. One, because there should not be any imposter syndrome, because you already know how to do the clinical work. If you start off with solving a similar problem to those who you see individually. So if therapy groups are something that either you've been exploring or this has brought up some ideas inside of you, again, I would highly recommend for you to take fast action. Grab that therapy group starter kit bundle in the description box. And if you're really curious to know what it looks like in real life to generate $350 or more per hour with therapy groups, then watch this video next.